Little Jack Johnson about how everything's a little bit better when, when we are together. There's no combination of words I could put on the back of a postcard. No song that I could sing, but I could try for your heart. These are dreams that made out of real things, like a shoebox of photographs of sepia tone loving. Love is the answer, at least for most of the questions in my heart, like why are we here, where do we go, how come it's so hard? It's not always easy, sometimes life can be deceiving. I tell you one thing, it's always better when we're together. Yeah, it's always better when we're together. We look at them stars and we're together. Yeah, it's always better when we're together. Well, ain't this better now we're together? Oh yeah, on a Sunday, and if all of these moments find their way into my dreams tonight, I know that they'll be gone when the morning light sings and brings new things. For tomorrow night you'll see they'll be gone too. Too many things we gotta do. And if all of these dreams might find their way to my day-to-day scene, I'll be under the impression that we're somewhere in between, with only two, just me and you. Not too many things we got to do, or places we got to be, to sit beneath the mango tree sing. Yeah, it's always better when we're together. Sing. It's always better when we're together. Yeah, it's always better when we're together. Well, it's always better when we're together. I believe in memories, they look so pretty when we sleep. Hey now and when I wake up, you look so pretty on a Sunday next to me. But there is not enough time. There is no song I could sing. There is no combination of words I could say, but I would still tell you one thing, we're better together. Yeah, it's always better when we're together. Somewhere in between together. Yeah, it's always better when we're together. Well, it's always better when we're together. True story, Jack Johnson. Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Good morning.
In just perfect rhythm to that song. He was looking at Bob the way I look at Jesus. You know, and Susie looks at it that way. So it was a perfect song to make the whole thing work. So anyway, good to see you all. I'm so happy that you guys are here this morning. I am just happy to be here in a way that I can't even describe. Yeah, maybe I'm happy to be here instead of other places that I would probably be. But in either case, it's good to see you guys all here today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today is Aldous Huxley's birthday. For anybody that cares, he's going to show up later in the talk. Because, you know, what's a Sunday without Aldous Huxley? Aldous Huxley, yeah, that's it. Aldous Huxley. Aldous. Aldous Huxley. That makes more sense. I'm wanting to add more to it. You should see me in a restaurant that's with a menu that's from another culture. It's like a superpower how I can butcher words. It's you just put those vowels together and I can come up with almost anything. So, a couple things going on today and this week, just to kind of, this is the Sunday that I do after service, about 10 minutes after service, we'll do a little conversation that anybody that wants to, it's kind of a, sort of a microdose on New Thought wherever we go and see what happens. It's called New Thought in the World, and it's just kind of open conversation, maybe something that came up during the talk or maybe something that you've been thinking about and where that perspective is. So that's this Sunday in the Emerson Room. But then next week, I'm so excited. I am so excited about this, you guys. I can't stand it. I'm so excited about it. In fact, I have these friends of mine that we have been like close friends since high school. And that was a long time ago. And we get together, and so I was telling him, I said, this is like the fulfillment of my ministry, which is we're starting a book study on Lord of the Rings. And so that went over big. But anyway, that's next Sunday after service, so we'll be starting that, and I'm really excited about that. We've got next chant is August 17th. Magdalena does mantras in the teen room before service. So that's happening. There's also youth and family going on in the teen room, even as we speak with Reverend Laura. So that's happening as well. There's well-being. Slow down. There's well-being in the Tao with Jim on Sundays. Anything you want to say about that, Jim? It's happening, huh? It's happening. And Jim's writing a book, or he's written a book. Yeah, it's at the printers?
No, but I should be hearing it back from the editor.
Fabulous. Cool. Very excited about that. Let's see what else is going on. Open Mind Gift Shop. Always good to go to. There's always cool things in there. I just got a really cool book bag from there, by the way. Really cool book bag. I really like it. So that's happening. Prayer ministry, this is an important thing, is every Friday morning the practitioners, without fail, get together and we pray. And we pray for any of the requests that are coming through. So if you'd like us to pray and continue praying with us, just fill out a prayer request card. We're happy to do that. Or see one of the practitioners. They'd be happy to pray with you either today or anytime that you want. Let's see, the practitioners today. Let's see, Paul is here, Liz is here, Andrea's here, Laura is here somewhere. She's with the kids. So they're happy to pray with you, or myself, or else you can make an appointment with any one of us if you want some spiritual counseling. Let's see, is that it? I think that's it. So here's the question of the day. So when I was thinking about it this morning, it was like, where do you vibe? Where do you vibe? And because what I want to be talking about later today in my talk is this idea of resonance, where you feel like you're in the flow, where you kind of feel that resonant energy of, it's just, this is working. So how do you plug into that? How do you plug into the vibe? Any questions? Anybody start with Jim?
Yeah, there's a number of them, but the key ones, I guess, would be I love teaching. Definitely get into the vibe there. Doing music, you kind of have to be, because if you get caught in your head, it's going to mess up. And then, of course, a well-placed nap.
Absolutely. Okay, took me a while to get to this one, but it's because it's about vibe, and I feel like as an artist I should know a lot about it, but it's got less to do about that than just about life. It's about failing. It's about being comfortable enough to fail enough times to find the vibe. Because if it's about trial and error. I didn't just start playing the guitar and was able to be in front of people to do this. I found it by liking a song, learning the song, kind of not being good at that song, knowing I'm not good at that song, and just being okay with that. And so failing through that, getting to the next side through trial and error is how I found my vibe.
Fabulous. Finding the vibe through failure. I love that. Yeah, it's Liz. How about you?
Many ways. If I do a hierarchy, boy, it's tough. What comes to mind immediately is nature, and I find that's my temple, my cathedral. So much so that when I'm there, whether it be on vacation or just in my backyard, that's really centering for me and one with all. playing with, loving my dogs. Nothing like it for me. Such an animal person, always have been. So that is another place that I just really feel happy. Music and art. Again, I could go on and on sometimes when I'm cooking. So I would say I got to stop there because my list is long.
All righty. Okay, Paul, you want to wander the mic out here. So where do you find the vibe? Where do you find resonance? Any takers?
I'll start in the back. That way I don't. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm so excited to have my son and grandson and daughter-in-law here today. And you want to talk about vibe, man. That's a vibe. But I choose peace now, and I am the vibe.
I don't think I can top a baby. That's pretty awesome. But for me, it's definitely Kundalini Yoga mantras, getting my chakras all spinning and open and clear, getting the clutter out of my head, and then just good old-fashioned friends and prayer and conversation, laughing, crying, just feeling unconditionally loved.
For me, it's always asking myself this one question. Do you believe that life happens to you or that it happens for you? And so no matter what happens, I'm asking, how is this life working for me? And I'd like to share one big event in my life. I have a daughter that I have not seen, and she did not speak to me since 2009. I'm leaving tomorrow night to New York to see her and my granddaughter.
I find my vibe in interacting with people, and of late, for the last 10 years, in learning how to listen to them and listening. That's where it comes in.
My vibe is always in the music I listen to. Music always sets the mood. It always gets me energized for the day. And I listen to happy-go-lucky songs, uplifting songs, like Jack Johnson is a good one. And that's it. My spiritual is definitely music.
Anyone else? Just breathe in those ideas of vibe, man. It's a way that we can activate ourselves and find ourselves the tools and tricks. Yes, what? Oh. Oh. Thank you. The tools that we learn to bring us into resonance, to bring us into that sense of that we're connected to everything, and just that we're part of something greater than ourselves. Next week I'm going to talk about the cult of authenticity, but not today.
You could also just move to California where the Reverend says, how do you get your vibe? That's how you get your vibe.
It really, I have become Reverend Cliche. And now that I'm unscripted and where I am, I'm going to let Liz lead us into the service here.
Well, good morning. Good morning. I'm Liz, your practitioner of service. Really happy to be here with all of you. And I'm seeing some Tommy and your beautiful partner and your little boy. I can't wait to hug him. And it's so great to see you. Wow, makes my heart pitter-patter. And you're right, Magdalena. How do you compete with the babies? Nothing like it. Maybe a dog. Sorry. Sorry. Walter, but a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay. I'll behave. It's great, and welcome everyone in the virtual world. So happy to have you with us, and happy to lead us in prayer this morning to start everything. And one of the things that I thought about when the vibe probe came is sometimes in prayer, that's my vibe, because what it does, it actually grounds me into why I'm here and a sense of purpose and love. And fear doesn't come into that when I'm in my prayer. So that's a beautiful place for me to be. So let's go there. So this morning, thank you. Thank you is the words that come out in gratitude for all of us being here, for having a beautiful place like the Hilltop Center, our spiritual place, family, a gathering where we can come together in unity to hear Reverend Guy's words, to hear the music from Lee and Jim, all the people that volunteer, all of the food, the community. We come here to listen, to open up our hearts and our souls, to get some tools for living this life. And there's enough things going on in the world that can take us away from that platform of love, of openness, of joy, and all of the attributes that come from the emanation of love. And today we are here for love and for joining together to support each other, to feel that spiritual family and community. And I'm feeling so grateful and blessed to be not only your practitioner here in prayer, but to be a part and as we join together in this fellowship. So with these words, they're not only heard, they're done, they're accepted by that universal energy that I call God. And with deep, deep gratitude, together we say, and so it is. And the theme for the month, and actually it may be longer, but it's a good one, freedom from pain or from anything that removes us from that center of love. Freedom in the soul and the heart, discord, anything that takes us away from the essence of love. And I've chose to read this. I choose to live by choice, not chance. To be motivated, not manipulated. To be useful, not used. To make changes, not excuses. To excel, not compete. I choose self-esteem, not self-pity. I choose to listen to my inner voice, not to the random opinion of others. And so it is. Now we will enter into a three month. That would be interesting. That's a long meditation. We should be levitating after that for sure. The whole building would be. Yeah, we would. We'd really be vibrating in really high frequency. A 3-minute silent meditation. As we slowly come back into this present moment, we again reflect on the beauty of the words of the meditation, and we say, and so it is.
I'm going to play a song I wrote for a friend of mine. It's ultimately about how self-doubt and the conditioning, the stories of our cultures and our parents' generation and whatever narratives get in there kind of can make us see ourselves not as our full potential. And so this song's about kind of getting those other narratives out of the way and stepping in, allowing ourselves to be closer to the things we admire. It's called The You That You Don't Know. If you knew the you that you don't know, you love yourself from head to toe. You never be too sad or low. If you knew the you that you don't know, if you saw the you that you don't see, you would feel so differently. You'd be as happy as can be if you saw the you that you don't see. You say, what the human, what the friend, what the model citizen. You know why the people love you so. If you knew the you that you don't know. If you heard the you that you don't hear, all the doubt would disappear. 'Cause you're so charming and sincere. Yeah, the you that you don't hear. What a human, what a friend, what a model citizen. You know why the people love you so. If you knew the you that you don't know. You may not see it for yourself. It's just everybody else. When the earth is old and cold and gray, and we're out beyond the Milky Way, who shall lead humanity? Well, I'd send the you that you don't see. They'll say, what a human, what a friend, what a model citizen. You know why the people love you so. If you knew the you that you don't know, just how the people love you so. If you knew the you that you don't know, if you knew the you that you don't know, if you knew the you that you don't know. True story. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jim Jones. And please welcome our Reverend Dr. Guy Williams.
Well, it'll work somehow or another. Go about your business there. I'm just rearranging my lectern here to where it'll work for me. I think I got it now. Good. Yes. So our quarterly theme is a freedom from discord. And it's something that Ernest Holmes talks about in sort of a quasi manifesto that he wrote about what he believed in a little book called Can We Talk to God? And I always loved that book, and I like the manifesto that he writes for himself. We've kind of adopted it as a creed of our teaching, and I don't know, I always think creeds are a little dubious because a creed basically defines who's in and who's out. So I'd rather not just say that it's a creed or something that we'll all agree to. You can agree to it or not, and you're still welcome here. But he uses the term that the purpose of life or the goal of life for every individual is to be a freedom from discord. And I like that idea. And I contemplate it a lot. I have this thing for words. I really enjoy words. And so this idea of discord. So if you break it down, it's two words, dis, which is Greek, which means to rend asunder, and cord or cordia is heart. So discord really is a heart that is torn asunder, right? Can you kind of feel that word there? So freedom from discord is the capacity to heal, to change, and improve our heart. And something that Krishnamurti talks about, he says, freedom from something isn't really freedom because it's a reaction or response to something else. So where freedom expresses novelty, agility, and newness is the freedom to create something. So to say freedom from discord isn't so much about healing the past as it is about charting a new future. So it's not so much about healing the wounds of our heart because, as my teacher used to say, scars make us interesting. So it's not so much about healing the past because the past is what it is, but it's more about how we can create, change, improve, or heal the heart so there's freedom to something. You with me on that one kind of a little bit, where I want to go to it? And I think about that with, that quote from Jean-Jacques Rousseau where he says, that we are born free, but everywhere we are in chains. And kind of why is that? So I've been kind of sitting with this whole idea, but I've also been sitting with something from the Science of Mind text, just because of some personal things that are happening with me in my life at this chapter. And, this lovely book here was sitting on my desk when I took the pulpit here 20 years ago. It belonged to the minister and the minister before that, and it'll belong to the minister who follows me. So it's really wonderful just to hold this, this particular copy of the text as a steward of it, because it reminds me that my role as a minister is to be a steward of our teaching, and no matter how much I wrestle with that. So I've been reading in this one part of the Science of Mind text where he talks about, he says, the way to proceed is to begin right where we at, which I kind of agree with. And then he says something that I sit with here. He writes this, he says, when things look the worst, that is the supreme moment to demonstrate to ourselves that there is no obstruction to the operation of truth. When things look the worst is the best time, the most satisfying time. I'm not thinking so. When things are at their worst is not the most satisfying time for me. Sometimes when things look their worst is really when it is more appropriate for me to reach out for help or support. And again, this kind of goes back to something that I want to talk a little bit more next week about this whole cult of authenticity. Because sometimes what that creates is this idea of such a self-sovereignty that we forget that we're part of something greater than ourselves. that we're participating in something that we are connected to, something that loves us unrelentingly, something that lures us into a greater experience of flourishing, something that we get to participate in at every level. There was a man by the name of Karl Starkloff. He was a physician in Illinois in the 1800s, but he wrote this. He says, on reading the various accounts by explorers and anthropologists, what strikes one is the almost universal hospitality shown by the indigenous tribes, especially to their white visitors. There are practically no examples of inhospitality or harsh treatment rendered to the whites. On the contrary, the tribal leaders went out of their way to receive these visitors as special guests. So, in indigenous cultures, and it's not just true in this one, because what struck me is I was responding to something that I had read about these Bedouin tribes in Syria at war, and what I was sitting with is in more indigenous cultures, there is sort of this rule or this way of living. In our particular country, the indigenous tribes call it the way of hospitality, the way of being hospitable. And also the Bedouin tribes in the ancient world also practiced this sense that if there was a stranger and that stranger needed something, it was your indispensable duty to provide that as best you could. And so, when we look at the ancient world, and not so much the ancient world, but in more traditional ways of living, the idea of kindness to the stranger, hospitality toward the stranger, is a fundamental, it is a cornerstone of how we live in the world together, how we find our way in the world. Which brings me to this quote from Aldous Huxley. Now I'm not able to pronounce his second name either, his last name either. Aldous Huxley. Thank you. And he writes this. He says, man is born so intelligent that he feels impelled to invent theories to account for what happens in the world. Unfortunately, he is not quite intelligent enough, in most cases, to find correct explanations. So that is when he acts on his theories. He behaves very often like a lunatic because of the stories that we make up. Because I was thinking about this, that when the European colonists came to this country, they were greeted with hospitality, and then they, structured a genocide. When the Jews came to the land of Palestine at the end of the Second World War, they were embraced and welcomed by the Palestinians, and then they engineered a genocide. And you wonder about this, when you look around, people show kindness to other people, and then they're betrayed. And maybe it's not necessarily a genocide that you personally are sitting with, but have you ever tried to extend yourself to someone else, and then you experienced a level of betrayal or loss, and it confounds you? Why was that so? I think at a macro level or on a global level, what we experience here in the West isn't always the case of what is going on in other places, because I believe that hospitality and kindness are still part of some cultures. But I think within our culture, we have sort of lost the plot of what it means to live together, because we're much more interested in other things and where we want to go with that. And I thought to myself, what causes this lunacy, as Huxley would say, this way of behaving where we offer or are offered a welcoming and a hospitality, but our response is not reciprocal, or our experience is not reciprocal, but it is something else. And of course, I think the most fundamental way of looking at that is something that is indigenous to the West, which is this belief that we are separate, that we are alone, that we are strictly the rugged individual. Because what's implied in that as the individual is that we are alone in this idea. And then you band that together and you create other ideas. You create this idea of empire. But I think it comes down to sort of this false Gnosticism that sort of grew up in the ancient world, which is this belief that we as humans are separate, that we're not only separate from the divine, we're separate from the planet, and that we're separate from our bodies. And that we don't even know how to be in our bodies. And if we can't be in our bodies, we can't really be with anyone else, or whatever the case may be. And so as a result of that, we strive for power, for dominance, to be on top, to have an us and them, but the us, hedges the bet just a little bit, right? And sometimes I think it's almost, so what I'm struggling with, on a macro level in my private life, is this idea of people wanting to be in control, and always for the best reasons, right? But this idea that we kind of need to control, and something that my teacher used to say, and I absolutely believe this, is that people who want to control live in a world of chaos. Because control is a response to a perception that things are out of control. And that somehow in our best case scenario, like Huxley would say, we kind of create these theories about how we can dominate that. And of course, right, you guys are thinking, just like I'm thinking right now, this goes all the way back to Lord of the Rings. It goes all the way back to Tolkien. Because Tolkien talks about this, and Tolkien, he said, first of all, he says, I hate allegory. I hate allegory. And no, the ring is not the atomic bomb, so let's, quit that nonsense. But it is emblematic of something else. Power. Power. That capacity to exert influence onto something else. And what he says is the root, when he wrote Lord of the Rings in his incredible Legendarium, he talks about how power really is a response to mortality, and even more than that, it is a response to death. Because that fear of death, it is, we are not in control of that or the experience of that, so we're always looking ways. And so when we train our mind to perceive a certain way, there is something within our brain called the reticular activation thing. If you train your mind to think a certain way, then you're going to see everything within the context or the prism of the way that you see it. So if already there is instilled with us this belief that we are separate, and there's fear that we're going to die and there's nothing that we can do about that, then naturally we're going to try to control things for the good, by the way. And again, I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking about Gandalf and the ring. Because in the story, how did I know? Because I know, because how else could it be? But in the story, at one point, Gandalf is offered the ring. So for those of you that don't know the story of Lord of the Rings, pro tip, it's about a ring. It's a ring of power, an ultimate power. But the thing about ultimate power is nobody is immune from the corruption of power. That as soon as one starts practicing power, one is a slave to power. And it continues to devour that person, to dehumanize them or to delegitimize them. In the end, one becomes nothing but a shadow and a wraith. One becomes undead, not living. And Gandalf, of course, is this incredible wizard who's all powerful, not all powerful, but he's pretty doggone close powerful. And he says, you know, oh, if I was to receive the ring, I would act out of pity, which he says is even more dangerous than you can imagine. Yeah, if I were king, think of all the good I could do. Right? Because we all kind of have that. I mean, I'm always thinking, you know, if I were king, if I were president, if I was this, if I was that, all the good that I would do. But the thing of it is if we are in a position of power, then the power itself corrupts us, and it corrupts us because there's this sense of separation, and the sense of separation comes from this belief that somehow or another I live in a world or a universe of chaos that I have to kind of control, and as Huxley says, then we start making up crazy things of how we're going to do it for our own good, right? Like a genocide, like a control, like a breakup in a weird way, or any mind games that people play on us or that we have played to other people, how we plot and think and do and whatever the case may be, or even how we do it on ourselves, how we betray ourselves for the idea of acting good. We will make ourselves miserable because it's good for us. That doesn't even begin to make sense for me, but we all practice that at one form or another, right? And we kind of live in a culture that says there's something wrong with you already, and all you got to do is do this and practice that, or go paleo, or do this, or whatever the case may be, and your life will be better and you'll be happier. And all of it creates discordia, that rendering of the heart asunder. And so, you know, it's easy to think, this was my thought, maybe it's not easy for you, but I used to think, you know, if I could just get my act together, then I'll be more spiritual. If I could just get these things out of the way, you know, if I could just do these things, then I'm going to be good. It's kind of like, you know, if I just, you know, treat this person, you know, in a way that I can get my way, then I'm going to be nice to them. If I could just bomb the crap out of them, then I'm going to be nice to them, and I'm going to build a Riviera for them, not for them, but for someone, you know, whatever the case may be. This story that somehow or another I can achieve my end, and then I can be in harmony. I can be in cordia with it, except it doesn't work that way. Richard Wilhelm, who did one of the premier translations of the I Ching, tells a story, and he tells the story of going to a village that was in drought. There was no rain. There had not been rain in a while, and they were in bad shape. And so he was there, and they called in this rainmaker. And the rainmaker comes in and says hello to everybody, and then goes into a hut, and there he sits for 3 days. And then it rains. And Wilhelm talked to him. He said, when I came to the village, it was so out of whack that of course there was no rain, because it was dissonant, it was in discord. And so the only way that I could bring this thing into discord was to bring myself out of discord. And that took me 3 days. He says, so what I did is I went into this shed, this hut, and I meditated and I prayed for 3 days, and I found myself back in resonance with where I was. And because I was back in resonance, my words, not his, you know, I became a place of resonance, and as a result of that, the village aligned itself with that, and it rained. So my offer then is for us to consider how we become a place of resonance. And pro tip, you don't do it on your own, because that's the myth. That's the thing that gets us in trouble in the first place, is thinking that it's up to us individually. But what if there was another way? So I want to share with you, if I may, what works for me. So what works for me are prayers that sometimes I don't have the capacity to pray myself because I'm distracted, because I'm worried, because I'm afraid, because I'm so intoxicated with the myth of separation that I can't think straight. I'm like Huxley. I'm somewhat of a lunatic. And so that's when I sort of lean on the wisdom of others. And, there is a prayer that probably all of us learned at one stage in our life that has been translated in so many kind of funny ways that sometimes we don't remember it. So what I'm talking about is the prayer that Jesus gave to his disciples, because, the writers of the Gospels, when they wrote this, there's a tradition in the ancient world, which is this, is if you want to know the teachings of a master, you ask him, how do you pray? Right? And then the teaching is encapsulated in the prayer. And so there's this prayer that Jesus gives. And I grew up, and there's this one part of it that's really interesting that, it says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Well, I don't even know what that means, trespass. Does that mean walking across me, stepping on me, whatever that is? Because the actual translation is debt. Forgive us our debts as we forgive those who are indebted to us. So it's really the practice. And in the Hebrew world, there was something known as a jubilee. And a jubilee was every 7 years, all debts were forgiven. 50 years, I know, but it's 7 years too. There was another, at least the thing I was reading this week was on 7, but I know there's a 50-year jubilee because that's what the word means. But there's also there's a Deuteronomic thing, because I'm talking to Jim, who's probably a better Bible scholar than I am, because he comes from a denomination where they actually study it. And I read Tolkien. So in either case, after so many years, 7 years, 50 years, debts are forgiven. It's an intention that says we forgive the debts so that we ourselves can be free of the bondage of debt. It's a level of consciousness. But what I want to offer to you is that there are, different interpretations of this. But there's one that I love dearly, and it's from Neil Douglas Klotz. And he translates this prayer from the Aramaic, which would probably be as close to what Jesus was teaching in the ancient world. And so, when I am tempted by the ring, when I am distracted, when I am afraid, and somehow or another, because what I understand to be true is this, is that when we are traumatized, when we are afraid, our imagination flatlines. And it's kind of hard to create a mental equivalent of good when you're scared, when you're afraid, when you're angry. Sometimes at that point, it's important to lean on someone. And so I lean on this prayer, and I want to share it with you. And you probably know it by its certain words, but I invite you just to listen to it from these words. And if you like it, we'll put it in the bulletin next week, right? So Klotz translates this as this: O birther, father, mother of the cosmos, you create all that moves in light. Focus your light within us. Make it useful as the rays of a beacon show the way. Unite our I can to yours, so that we will walk as kings and queens with every creature. Create in me a divine cooperation from many cells, one voice, one action. Grant what we need each day in bread and insight. Forgive our hidden past, the secret shames, as we consistently forgive what others hide. Deceived by the outer, nor the inner. Free us to walk your path with joy. From you is born all ruling will, the power and life to do. The song that beautifies from all ages to ages, it renews. Amen. And so the prayer then is to be renewed. And sometimes what I offer to you is, if you're feeling something, you don't have to be in what's going on alone. What I love about our tradition is that we train people to be with each other, to pray with each other. Call a practitioner, call me, have someone pray with you. And if that's not available, lean on music, poetry, art, prayers of others. The most important thing to realize, the goal is not to be powerful. The goal is to be seen, heard, loved, invited, nurtured, and cared for. We have the capacity to change, to improve, and to heal our lives. But it was never designed for us to do it on our own. We are a people of the divine, not individuals of the divine. And that turn of the jewel creates the opportunity to bring freedom from every form of discord whatsoever. Thank you.
Yes, Fred, thank you. Oh my gosh. All right. Thanks for those words, Rev. Beautiful. So much to unpack there. I always think I know where I'm going with your direction, and I changed my mind 5 times. But one of the songs I've been wanting to do, because I feel like, we do so well here at intellectualizing our awareness, talking about the history of humanity, philosophy, all the religions. We intellectualize so we can become aware, so we can practice better. But a lot of the other half of that of healing is feeling. So we can talk about it all we want, but if we don't feel the feelings, it's really hard to feel, hard to heal. So this song is by David Gray, and it's a love song, but the chorus, I want us all to sing along. It says, let go of your heart, let go of your head, and feel it now. Simple as that. Go of your heart, go of your head, feel it now. Try that. Go of your heart, let go of your head, feel it now. One more time. Go of your heart, go of your head, feel it now. Okay, we'll do that in the chorus. Friday night, I'm going nowhere. All the lights are changing, green, red. Turning on the TV station, the situations running through my head. Looking back at time, I was hurt, I've been blind, I've been a fool. To open up my heart to all that jealousy, that bitterness, that ridicule. If you want it, come and get it, crying out loud. Love that I was giving you was never in doubt. Here we go. Go your heart, go your head, feel it now again. Go your heart, go of your head, feel it now. Babylon, Babylon. Sunday, all the lights of Fallbrook shining, sky is fading, red and blue. Kicking through those summer leaves, wondering where it is you might be going to. Turning back home, I'm feeling so alone, I can't believe. Climbing on the stairs, I turn around and see you smiling there in front of me. Hey, yeah. If you want it, come and get it. Crying out loud. The love that I was giving you was never in doubt. Thank you. Walter's feeling it. I've been singing that song for like maybe 15, 20 years, something like that, and it took me forever. I wanted to sing that because it's taken me forever to actually feel it. I've singing those words over and over in music, and then it was like 15 years into it, I was like, oh, now I'm actually feeling it. So it's a testament to how long it takes to actually break that down.
I thought I was on.
Hello. Scared me. Thank you, Lee and Jim and Reverend Guy for those beautiful words. Yeah. Why do we come? Why do we come here? Why I come here is to feel a connection with you all, with a higher sense of what this world is all about. I choose to call that energy God. To ground myself for life, to feel the fellowship and connection with all of you. So this is the time for conscious giving, and whether you choose to give of your financial resources or not, and I hope that you do, because it does take money to keep the lights on and to keep our place going, and we thank all of you that do that. And for those that also do a service is another form of giving. So with that, if you choose to give, hold your gift to your heart and know that that is a constant flow of energy. What we give comes back. And realizing that it is not an issue, it's just more of a freedom statement of, I believe that this fulfills me and gives me something, and I want to give it something. It's as simple as that. So again, bless if you are giving, bless your gift, and bless you for being here and all that you do. And we thank you for being a part of this beautiful family called Hilltop. And so it is.
Didn't have to, but you do, but you do. You keep on coming through, coming through, coming through.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's a 50-year jubilee.
It's a year jubilee, and 7 years, so every 7 days, everybody had
To rest. Yes, there's Sabbath.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you had every 7 years, there was the forgiveness of debts, all debts, and you would also let the land rest.
Yes.
And then a cycle of 7 of the 7 years, which would be 49, and it was either celebrated on the 49 or 50, we're not sure.
Mm.
They would also have the usual release of debt, but they would return the land back to the original owner.
Oh, wow. You guys should have heard that. It was cool. Yeah, yeah. So I kind of understood all of that, yeah, because that was kind of how I saw it. There was a Jubilee year, but there was also the 7 year because it's based on the 7 of rest of the crops, slaves, and all of that, yeah.
But it was designed to keep them from becoming permanently indebted and permanently landless.
Mm-hmm. Which, of course, they didn't really practice.
The Jubilee is the question if they did.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
that's actually the reason that's given for why they went into captivity in Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
It's all connected. It's all connected.
Because all connected, yep. So, there you have it. So a conversation like that can continue afterwards if you'd like to. But before that, before we break, a couple things. One is, let's let our musicians eat first today. We'll let them go first as a jubilee of that. So please hang out, get a cup of coffee, let them feed themselves first, and then you can join in as well. And also let Mike too, because he's shutting down the soundboard, and he's done a fabulous job out back there. So thank you, Mike, for everything that you do. Who are our greeters today? Walter was a greeter. Okay, Walter, Bob, and Susie, thank you for greeting. I know that Matt's in the kitchen with Kurt and Julieta, and they're working up some food for us, so give them some love as well. Magdalena for doing your meditations and your chanting, which is fabulous. Give Laura some love, that she's with the kids today. You guys are always fabulous. Paul, thank you. Always a pleasure to be on the platform with you. Andrea, if I'm forgetting somebody, it's not because of anything other than just brain. When I'm I don't even want to go there. It's like this. When I'm giving my talk, I feel really focused. That's like the time that I'm probably most present. But like before the talk and after the talk, I'm like Rain Man, and I'm just kind of like. So anyway, if I forgot you, please don't take it personal. I forget myself sometimes. So anyway, with all that, thanks for being here. I really mean it. I really mean thank you for being here. It really is. I'm just so thrilled to see your faces. I really, each and every one of you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being part of our community. Thank you, thank you. So with that, let us pray. And bless this day. Bless this day. So we just open ourselves to that divine presence, which is the presence of unrelenting love. And there's nothing we can do to control that. We just take our refuge in the presence of love, knowing from there it has the ability to reweave our heart stronger, more resonant, more connected. And so my prayer for each and every one of us is the prayer that I pray every day. May we be filled with wonder and awe. May something surprise us. May something bring us to amazement. And may we take that opportunity to move into reverence. And from that reverence, respond accordingly. And so we bless it all. We give thanks. We let it be. So it is.
I was so happy today when you asked the question about the vibe, because I have a song that I wrote in the pandemic called Vibration, about getting the people together and digging deep down in awareness and feelings. So perfect for today. Vibration.
Well, I guess a black ride out. I'm not talking about a night out, like someone in the light out, like a whitewash wipeout. Well, you know the situation. Spin weighing on your shoulder. You take a little isolation. You feel like you're a little colder. I wanna feel the vibration. All my people in the music. Wanna feel the vibration. Oh, you know I'm gonna lose it. Yeah, but you gotta go down, down, deep, deep down, you dig deep down. Down, down, deep, deep down, you dig deep down. Do you know how I got here? I'm gonna change them without you. Just trying to find a spot here. Let it flow if you got fear. Cause you gotta let the soul shine. And you gotta have a good time. You gotta let your body unwind before you're back to the grind. I wanna feel the vibration. All my people in the music. Wanna feel the vibration. Oh, you know I'm gonna use it. Yeah, but you gotta go down, down, deep, deep down, gotta dig, deep, deep down. Down, down, deep, deep down, gotta dig, deep, deep. I'm singing down, down, dig, deep down, gotta dig, deep, deep down. Down, down, dig, deep down, gotta dig, deep, deep down. Gotta let the soul shine. Yeah, you gotta have a good time. You gotta let your body unwind before you're back to the grind. I wanna feel the vibration. All my people in the music. Wanna feel the vibration. Oh, you know I'm gonna lose it. Yeah, but you gotta go. Yeah, you gotta go on a Sunday. So you gotta go down, down, deep, deep down, deep, deep down. Down, down, deep, deep down, deep, deep down.
Thanks, everybody. Happy Sunday. Let's eat. Thanks, Walter.